Hey everyone, Namaste. My name is Divya Singh, and welcome to my podcast segment of Mom Dreams YouTube channel. And for today, I have this beautiful lady. For her, age is just a number, and the best thing what she said was confidence is the key to everything. She also works full-time job at Costco, and she's an actress from last 7 years. Let's go without further ado. Meet Miss Stacy Miner. So go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
I am Stacy Miner. I am an actress and I am represented by Dream Team Talent Agency in Chicago and Talent Fusion Agency in Indianapolis. I wasn't always, I've only been doing it about 7 years. Um, been working very hard at it though. You know, they say overnight success takes about 10 years. But before I did this, I was 28 years in law. I worked in law firms, mostly federal law firms, and I did office management. I was legal secretary, a paralegal. I did pretty much all of it. And I got quite burnt out. I got very burnt out. I had always wanted to do acting. And the opportunity came for me to do background acting. And I thought, you know what? I really want to give it a try. And if I completely stink at it, nobody has to know that I did it. But if I really like it, it could be opening a whole new door and a whole new life. And it happened to be the latter for me. It was a whole new life. So the very first day that I went on as a background actor, had no idea what I was doing. And somebody said, just follow us, because I was like, this is my first day. It was on Chicago Justice, you know, the Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and it was Chicago Justice. And I later became a core attorney, a featured attorney. They used me many times in their courtrooms and in featured spots. And as background, I thought that was great, but I wanted so badly to just jump in and say the parts and say the roles and say the lines and play the part. I knew the part. I worked in law for 28 years. I know how this plays out. I know how this works. Yeah. But the very first day that I went on set, I told them, I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is my first day. And a couple people were like, just follow us. Do what they tell you and just make sure that you stay quiet all the time and then just do what they tell you. Okay. So it just so happens they took all of us, and the very first scene that I was ever background in, I was supposed to be in the galley for a courtroom scene, and they put us on a bus and they sent us down to Supreme Court, the Supreme Court in downtown Chicago. And it was filming after they were closed for the day. And when we walked in, I had no idea that I'm looking around, and I had no idea that it was actors they had placed up there and that were placed in the courtroom and everything. And I'm like, okay, it felt comfortable to me because of courtrooms, and I'd been in courtrooms and dealt with trials and things of that nature. So they took all of us background actors and they sat us in a conference room. So I headed to the back of the conference room because I thought, I'm going to stay in the back because I have no idea what I'm doing and I just have to follow everybody else. And out of the clear blue, somebody opens up the door at the very end of the conference room, and it not at the beginning where we all had entered, but the very back of the room, somebody opened up the door and the door hit my chair. And he said, one of our reporters didn't show today. You, come with me.
So you?
Me.
Wow.
And I'm like, first thought is, how am I going to follow everyone? I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah. So I look at the one next to me and I'm like, they're like, whatever they tell you to. I said, okay. So I walked in there, and confidence is always key any room you walk into. I later learned that would be my everything, and then I also know that I had it from day one.
Yes.
So confidence was my key. I walked into that courtroom like I knew what I was doing. I had been there 10 million times before, and they had me pick up a camera, and it was a high profile case that they were shooting that the actors were doing, and you stand here and you click and you do that. I did everything that they told me to do, and they didn't cut me. I wound up front and center
Yeah.
My first background gig, I wound up front and center in the show. And
Wow.
and I thought, oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I loved it.
Yes.
So over the next year, I did 60, 70 episodes of background for Fire PD Med. I was a reporter all the time. I was working it. I was working it. This time I was no longer in the law firm,
Yes.
and I was doing this 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I am now a full-time cashier at Costco. So big change.
Yes.
However,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a 3-hour commute to downtown Chicago anymore. I have a 15-minute one-way ride, do my thing, come home, audition, and I'm now at the point where I can arrange. If I need to take a day off, I can take a day off in advance. If the schedule is already out, I can switch my schedule with someone else so that I get the day off that I need. If not, I can call in and use my personal time that I've accumulated. And most of the managers know what I do. And so if I go to call in, usually they ask everybody, the first thing is, oh, I hope you feel better. My managers usually say, you got an audition? Or what are you filming today? Or, they know. And I mean, I make no secrets about it. That's what I do. And that's what that time is for. And I never fake, oh, I'm calling in because, no, guys, I got a chance today. It's last night. And it's today at noon. I got to go,
Awesome.
Sometimes that much in advance, and sometimes that much in advance. So
Yeah. That's true.
I'm very grateful that and a lot of people are like, what are you still doing here? And I'm like, well, I've got great benefits where I'm at. It pays everything. Great roof over our head, great food in our mouth. Thank God every day. And, when the big one comes, until then, that's what I'm going to be doing. But I've got to do what I want, what I've got to do until I can do what I want to do. But it also does allow me to be able to do what I want to do. So my progress is a little slower than most, but slow progress is progress. And when the doors open, when God opens the doors, you've got to run through them. And when the opportunity is there, I don't care what it takes. You have to take the opportunity, because if you don't, someone else takes the opportunity, and it's very true, someone less qualified than you may be getting your opportunity, so you can't pass it up.
Awesome.
You can't.
Wonderful.
You've just got to keep grinding. You got to keep going and doing, and
that's actually it's good to know about what you have mentioned. It's really helpful to the actors who are entering in the industry or trying to give up just because you're not getting those acting gigs or anything like that. And it's like it's not 9 to 5, so it's not a part-time as well, it's not a full-time acting as well at this point, because of so many things going around, I feel. So coming that from you being in the industry for last 7 years, and you stayed through the pandemic as well.
I had the opportunity, the very first classes that I took, and the very first chance that I got with learning and schooling was with Ed Fogel at the Chicago Actor Studio. And I was very fortunate that there were very few people that had a workshop with a good friend of his, Joe Montagna, who is an actor from CSI, and he was from Cicero, Chicago. And I was one of the few on a podcast or a workshop with him. And then I had the opportunity, after it was all over, to have some discussion with him. And he said, if you're in it for the money and the fame, you might as well give up now, because there's a lot of people that are like, I want to be famous. I want people to know my name. It's trying to explain. It is something that gets in your blood. You have fun. You want to do it. It is something that you feel. You are driven. And I think one of my drives was I started doing this at a very bad time in my life. And what made it so great for me at the time, it was part of my survival as well, because I was able to be someone else, not me. And that helped me get over the hump of where I was. Me was not a good place to be then. Right now, me is a great place to be. but it took a long time to get there. But anyway, Joe Montana said, if you wake up thinking it and you go to sleep thinking it, and everything that you do is, that's what I want to do, and you're going to get a lot of unpaid things that you have to do, but it's the experience that you're going to get that you can take with you. That's priceless, and that's very true. He said, but if it's something that is your passion, you're going to succeed. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
And so also one of the other jobs that I did is I was a transcriptionist. So Michelle Hill, who was a ghostwriter, and I used to transcribe when I worked in the law firms.
Okay.
So when I wasn't working in the law firm, she also is one of the ones that helped me get through one of the roughest times and helped me make ends meet. And she does autobiographies and memoirs for NFL players and NBA players.
Okay.
And so she would do their interviews, and I was their transcriptionists. And their novels are out. And so many books that she has been responsible for getting out there in the market. I was her transcriptionist. And many times the quotes from these NFL players and these NBA players, a lot of them retired, a lot of them, what they went through, nobody has an easy street to get to somewhere successful.
That's
And nobody sees, the climb and the rejection and the heartaches and the loss of sleep and anything that goes with it. Nobody sees any of that. They just see, today we're having a podcast and we're having a lot of fun, but they don't see, for maybe 2 weeks, we're up till 1 a.m. Doing an audition, because then you had to get your kids' lunches ready for school. Or not mine. My daughter's grown and out on her own. But they don't see this and that you're dragging, and by 2 o'clock the next day you're like, oh, I can't wait to get home and take a 10-minute nap because I got a deadline to do this one now, and I'm not going to give up that opportunity. But anyway, he said, if that's your drive and that's your passion, don't stop. So when I would do these transcriptions, many people would throw out, I'd be transcribing, and every now and then they would say something that would strike such a chord with me. And I would write it on a Post-it note and stick it on my refrigerator. And right now I have a little thing going where, and I look at them every single day. And one of them that I look at is one of the NBA players. He said, your success is determined by where you decide to quit.
Wow.
And that hit me really hard. And it's true. If you quit, you're done.
Yes.
You're never going to get to where you want to be if you quit, but your success is determined by where you decide to quit. Center on the refrigerator.
I think that also motivates you. It inspires you to get up in the morning, do your job 9 to 5, whatever job you're doing, and then get back on the dream, what you want to achieve.
Another one, she interviewed a mom who is the mother of one of the football players. Yeah. And she said, my son taught me you have to learn to breathe in the dirt. And it's like, well, what does that mean? So, and Michelle asked her, what does that mean? Learn to breathe. And he said, when you get tackled and you are hurt and you get shoved down into the dirt, you have a choice. You can lay there and give up and say, I'm going to go back to the sideline because that hurt. Or you learn to breathe while your head is down there. You learn to start breathing again. You find what it drives you and you get back up and you go fight and you line up again.
Yes.
And so that's another Post-it that I keep. You learn to breathe in the dirt and you just keep right on going. As long as you keep getting in the rooms and as long as you keep getting called back, you're doing something right. They just haven't found the spot for you, but it'll hit, it'll land, and you just can't stop until you get there. And every now and then you get a yes. And when you get that yes, you're like, wait, are you sure? And then you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta, yay. And then that gives you incentive to keep going and doing it even more. And you get better and stronger. And you've got to keep learning from, any chance I get a workshop, any chance I get to go learn from someone else. Everybody kind of gives you kind of the same information, but just in a different kind of way.
Yes.
But there's always going to be something that you're going to pick up a little bit differently from someone else that you didn't here before.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very, very grateful to so many people that took the time to help me along the way. Tony Garcia, who is one of Vilma's best friends, he helped me in the very beginning when I was going from, I don't want to do background anymore. I want to do, I actually was taking some private lessons with him. And we met at a library a couple of times, and he helped me out. And I mean, it was, the information he gave me was priceless.
Wow.
And I wish I would have known it before my first audition, but then when I told him what I did, and he was like, "Oh, you did what?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Well, that's, what you did is to the regular people, that would be great, but when you're on a camera, it doesn't work that way." And he taped me on my phone and showed me the instance that I was telling him. So the experience was priceless.
Yeah.
And another thing in this business, you have to hang around with the people who cheer you on.
Yes.
And you have to be one of the people that cheers somebody on as well. And I now have my own saying that I tell everybody. It could be the German Shepherd, it could be the Chihuahua. And it depends on, sometimes just because you don't get booked, it's not because you didn't do good, it's just because you weren't right for that spot. My German Shepherd got an audition for, thanks to Dream Team, my German Shepherd has gotten a couple of auditions. My German Shepherd, Sadie, saved my life. Yes. So she's Sadie Says on Facebook. Everybody knows who Sadie is on Facebook.
Yes. She's beautiful.
So, well, thank you. So she actually has had a few auditions. One of them was for a dog food. One of them was for Anheuser-Busch. One of them was for Blue Buffalo dog food. She did everything she was supposed to do. The auditions were great. And however, one of them, I think it was the Anheuser-Busch, and we do know who got this one, but I had to just laugh because she did everything right. Yeah. We had someone who knew what they were doing with all of the filming come over and tape it, film it, and edit it, and we sent it in, and it was like, she killed it. Yeah. And I do know who owns the Chihuahua that got booked, and she's actually with Dream Team. Hard, and so now anytime I do an audition and somebody is like, well, how did it go? Oh, I think it went great, but it's going to be the German Shepherd or the Chihuahua. Yeah, you don't know. And then of course when you get an audition, I had like 6 auditions for Chicago Med within, I don't know, 7 months, but every time you go and you want to watch and see who got the role. You can second, did I do something wrong or did they not? But 9 out of 10 times, the person that they've booked is the complete opposite side of the spectrum of you. Yeah. So you don't know what they did. It could have been the look. It could have been something that they did. Yes. And I was actually working on set with somebody one day, and I said, I would love to get an audition for that. And somebody actually, you get to know the crew when you're working with a certain group for a while, and you get to know them on first name basis, and you can walk in and, hi, how are you? And even if you've been, and somebody said to me, you may not get it because you remind him of his ex-wife. And if you may remind him of his ex-wife. And they said, that's a joke, but it's a for real. It's a for real. If you may not even get something because you remind someone of an ex or a bad experience or whatever. You may be really good, but they're going to be like, nope, not her, got to take the next. I mean, you don't know. It started out as a joke, but somebody really did tell me that. I'm like, I would really love to try out for that. And they're like, well, you've heard that, if you look like somebody's ex-wife, you're never going to get it. And they're like, you would never do that. What if the 2 places and they got really good? They're like, maybe that was just them telling me, hey, you really stunk, but it's true. I've heard many stories of certain things that have happened.
Does it happen? Like, really it happens? Like, you go for the callback and whole set is sitting, not
somebody may say,
and then they're like, that person's good, but it reminds me of someone else. Like, I don't think so we can do it.
Yeah, and they have the power to say that. If they've got to work with you all the time, they have the power to say that. But there's a couple of directors that I work with on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
And when they work with you and you get a rapport with them and it's very comfortable and they know that you're going to deliver what they need, you just kind of get that connection. And when you read their scripts, you know where they're coming from, and they actually have picked you for a role that is just perfect that you can relate to. So you deliver and give them what they need, and then they invite you back. And then they invite you back again, and then again. And excuse me. So I work with a couple of those directors, and I love them to death. And I've gotten to be, friends with their families, and they're part of my family, and I consider them family. And it's just a very comfortable situation. So Cynthia and Dre, and a few of them that they're automatically like, and then some of the auditions that you've done for some of the TV shows or for a movie, when you get the opportunity and you see the name again of a director that you're auditioning for again, that is huge. I tell you what, a couple of years ago, Mike Olive and I did an audition for, it was like a Hallmark, it was for an Ion Christmas movie, like a Hallmark kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we did this audition, and about a month later, a friend of mine in the acting world called and said, "Hey, I'm on set today, and there's only 6 of us background actors, and they want another woman that can come in and play an office worker. What are you doing today?" And I was like, it just so happens, it was a Tuesday, it just so happens I'm off today, but I haven't showered. I'm just now leaving the grocery store. My hair is in a clip, and I'm in sweats. When do you need me to be there? He said, in an hour. I said, I might be a little late. Give me time. I literally came home, threw on a blue suit, tousled my hair, tried to make it look decent, threw on some makeup, got in the car, and I drove there.
Yeah.
So literally, I drove up to where they're at, and he's like, give the guy your name and they'll let you pull in, and whatever. They were on location, and it was in downtown Chicago. So I pull in and I park, and I walk in, and they were filming, and I see him, and he waves, and come on over, have a seat. And the director, when they did the first cut, the director walks up to me and he said, "You had a great audition for this movie." And I looked at him and I said, all due respect, I didn't audition for this movie. And he said, "Yes, you did. I'll be back in a minute." Well, I didn't know that they had changed the name. Vivica Fox was in this movie. She had a main character. I didn't know they had changed the movie, the name. It started out as something about a Christmas gift, and then it turned into a Christmas thief or something. It was something completely different. And he came back about 3 hours later, and he said, "You auditioned for the mom role." He said, "And the reason why I remember you is because we sat in a conference room, and it was down to you and the girl that got picked." And I was like, I said, "I remember that audition." He said, "That's why when your friend showed me your picture and said, 'Do you want me to call her to come be your extra person on set today?' He said, I remembered you." And I went, so I sent Vilma right away. I sent her a message right away. I'm like, so this is how it works. This director, I got on set, and this director remembered my audition, and out of hundreds. And so you don't know. It's like that plaque on the wall at a doctor's office. You don't know if they graduated second in their class or 202nd in their class. You don't know where you came in. But I felt great that day, and I said, all I know is that my audition didn't suck, and he remembered me. And that was a good thing. But when you get the good opportunities, you get the people who know what they're doing. You get the people who know what they're doing to coach you for the audition, so that it's another set of eyes, because in our minds, we always do something so great. How could they pick someone else? We always did so great. And I always think of that meme where it says, the people jogging think they look like this and they look like this. I always think of that too. We always think we look great. Our audition looks great, but we don't know. To their perfected eye, we might look like, a complete bobblehead mess. We don't know.
Yes.
So you want to get somebody professional to help you do it. So as long as you know that you don't suck, excuse me, I know I keep saying that, but that's the best way I put it. You can walk out holding your head high, knowing that you're on the right track. But you never stop learning, and you never stop taking advice, and you never stop. The experience is priceless. Even if you're filming for free, the experience is priceless.
Love the way how you have shared your whole journey. This is not whole journey. I know more about you now, but then still, like, being a mom, being a 9 to 5, coming from that job, doing your scene, doing your audition, doing your movies, and I have seen you as not seen you in person, but I've seen you pictures as a doctor. You do amazing in that. And I when I met you at the gala for the first time as in person, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Stacy. So that I felt like I knew you. I felt like I knew her, and I'm just gonna go and say hi. So yeah, it was wonderful.
To put a face with the name. It's always good to put a face with the name. But you know what? We get to know so many people in the industry and in the circle that when you do meet people, it's great. They become part of your world, part of your family. I mean, and it's part of your network. So that's what this whole thing is all about, is networking and rooting each other on. I mean, like I said, I was taught you stay in the circle of people who support you, but you need to be one of those supporters as well. So even if I'm auditioning for something that somebody I know is auditioning for, we literally wholeheartedly can say, oh my gosh, go for it, get it. Because again, the German Shepherd and the Chihuahua, you don't know what they're looking for.
That's true.
And you hope and pray to God that one of you has what they're looking for. If you don't have it, you hope that the person that you know has it, because what a feeling. And then if you are the one that has it, you want them to be like, you had what they were looking for this time. I know my time's coming. So you've got to, you've got to, there's so much jealousy and hatred and people knocking you down out there. You've got to stay in the circle of the people that build you up. And somebody told me there's plenty of work for everyone in this business. And it's true. You might not, if they don't pick you for a role, I pray to God they pick someone that I know. I want to share that joy with them. And my mom always said, put it out there. God brings it back times 10. And he does. She was always right. He does. He brings it back times 10. And
might not come right now, but it's coming. Something is happening behind the scene for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do believe that God is putting your name in ears of people that can change your lives, and you're being mentioned in rooms that you haven't entered yet. And people see your work.
Wonderful. Out there. Wonderful.
People know your reliability, your work ethics, your if you say you're going to be there, you're going to be there. If you're on time in this industry, if you're on time, you're late.
You have to.
So they get to know you, and they know that they can rely on you. And if something happens with somebody and they don't make it, and somebody calls you and they're like, hey, can you get here? They know that they can rely on you. And they know you're going to
mind sharing it. What is your age?
I'm 58. I'm 58.
Wow. And being in this industry for the last 7 years.
I started in my 50s. And I never mind. I will tell you what, if you don't follow Wendy Allen Wright, everybody in the industry knows who Wendy Allen Wright is. In her group, TMFA, I'm in her group, and I take their advice wholeheartedly. I get my package together with the way that she says, you've got to get your actor's access, your IMDb, your clips. You don't do reels anymore. You get your clips. You've got to keep everything ready to go in for the kill when somebody needs your materials, and you've got to have that experience, and you've got to get it all together. And one of the things that she says, don't tell them your age. She's the best manager, in the nation. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the world, but because she's the one that I follow, and so far I see everything, that she says come to fruition. And so she says, don't ever tell them your age. You play who you can play. I can play a doctor, I can play a lawyer, I can play a librarian, I can play a mom, I can play a grandmother. If you want to put gray in my hair, I can play a grandma. I can't play a 24-year-old bartender. I can't play a 35-year-old mom.
Yeah.
I can't play, you have to be realistic. You have your brand. You have what you fit into.
Yeah.
I have had auditions for the range of 52 to 60, 55 to 64, 47 to 55. I got an audition for, she would fit this role. We would like to see an audition from her. This character is, 47 to 55 years old. I'm 58. You think I can fit that character in the place? That's 3 years off. That's not 20 years off.
Yeah.
Be realistic. If somebody sends out an audition, and then if they say, we're looking for someone that's 35, no, that's great. Now, on the other hand, if I know someone who's 32, 35, 40, 42, that can fit that, I'm going to send it to them, or I'm going to tag them in it, or I'm going to call them, hey, someone's looking for somebody you fit. And vice versa. I can't tell you how many times somebody has tagged me in something and they're like, this fits you. This is for you. This is, So, and I've seen a lot of people ask, do you go for auditions, if you have the opportunity to submit for an audition that is not in your age range, do you do it? Hell, you should do it.
Yeah.
But if you can play it, and I saw somebody on there, honesty is the best policy. And if you're not honest, you're not going to get, no, honesty is the best policy. Ask me anything. I'll be completely honest with you. But it's who you can play,
True.
And that's what she teaches. And that is so true. That is so true. And, but like I said, you have to be realistic. If you're 50 and you're going for a 35-year-old role, and then you're wondering why you don't get it, come on. So, how about, I'm trying to think of, what was it I just recently read that the role was for a 19-year-old, and the girl who played it was 29.
So like 10 years almost.
It's a very well-known movie. She was 29 and she played a 19-year-old. I can't think of what it was. I was just reading and I was like, now that's a stretch, but that's how she looked. That's how she looked. And I'll be honest with you, there's people that I see that I'm like, oh, I would have expected them to be older, or I would have expected them to be younger.
Yeah.
You've got to play who they think you can play.
Yeah.
And, I mean, not everybody looks their age, older and younger.
So let's, coming to that age thing, what do you think as an actor, how much age gap should be there? Let's say if like a 30-year-old is there, what a 30-year-old can play on, like 25 to 35, or
everybody is different.
Depends on how they look.
Everybody is different. Everybody is different. People who are young, who are bald, who or who are completely gray.
Yeah.
I know someone in their 30s completely gray. They could play someone older than 30 or 35.
With makeup on, with the face and everything.
Yeah. I know someone who is 65 that looks old enough to play someone almost 80. I know
Wow.
someone who is 55 who I think looks old enough to play 40. I mean, that's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
perception of them.
Yeah.
So
Look,
would I go out for somebody playing 52 or 55 if the director thought that I would fit that role and I could play? Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. I'll play it. If you send me, I have had a few auditions from photos.
Yeah.
Um, they picked you and they would like to see a self-tape.
Yeah.
I did a self-tape for what would have been like my hugest commercial in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago, and I was so proud of that. And they never respond to you if you don't get it. You just
Yeah.
obviously this is the date that they were going to film, and they're obviously using somebody else. I obviously didn't get it, but I did actually get an email back that I did not expect that said that was a great audition. And that alone made me feel like, okay, so I don't know, maybe 6 months from now, a year from now, they might have something where they contact me back and say, we thought somebody else would fit that better, but you know what, we'd love to see you give this a try. May or may not, you don't know, may or may not, but to get that, and there's been times that I've had feedback as well that it was like, I wouldn't have made that choice, and yeah, probably kind of blew that. Okay, well, I hope that I get another opportunity with them again, or, but it's all about, they tell you, don't make the choices that you think they want to see, make the choices that you would make. But it's also always good to get another set of eyes that someone has perceived what you're reading differently than you have. That's happened many times that I'll be like, oh, well, I didn't see that happening. But now that I read it like that, now that makes sense. But it's always good to get another set of eyes.
That's so when you get the audition, how do you manage? Like, let's say you are at work, you had the weirdest day, the worst day of your work, and now you have to audition as like, ooh, fun going personality. So how do you change yourself from that to a fun going personality, and you're doing that?
When I'm at work, I've got no makeup, I've got glasses, I got hair pulled back, I do my thing. So I get the audition.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. I love Zoom. People, since the pandemic has lifted, I've gone on, an in-person, but I love Zoom. And for this reason, I love Zoom. I come home, and because acting is my passion, even when I'm really tired, I tell myself, do I have enough energy tonight to do it as soon as I get home? Can I take Sadie for a walk, feed her dinner, grab a bite to eat, and then set up? I mean, sometimes I'll get home, and by the time you're done, you're just getting into, you've got to have things ready to go at home. I've got my lights. This is my little self-tape room that I'm sitting in this chair in, and you've got to have everything ready to go. But there's still the preparation of coming home and changing into, an outfit that you could be that person, putting your makeup on. And now you have an hour to learn, but you know what? It's quiet. You get yourself in the mindset of who are you? What message are you conveying? And what part of your life can you relate to who you're about to play? And you go to that time and that person and that feeling. And the preparation, it's not like you come home and you're like, okay, be back in a minute, gonna run upstairs, and okay, like you read it off of a piece of paper and now you're done. You may turn in a 24-second audition, a 35-second audition, a minute audition.
Yeah.
you may turn that in, but it takes time.
Yeah.
And so, there have been times that morning I went to work, I jumped in the shower, and my hair was completely straight. I pulled it back in a ponytail, and now I get home and I'm like, I can't do this like this. I'm going to have to fix my hair. I'm going to have to put on some makeup. I'm Italian, I talk with my hands. That's another thing that I've had to learn in acting is you can't move your head as much.
Yeah.
Because
Me
you can't
too.
use much. You
The
can't use
hands
your hand.
yeah, the body
Yeah.
gesture. Yep, yep.
I'm Italian. That's what I do. So
Yeah.
that's I'm hyper. I talk fast. So when I am acting, I have had to learn, and I had to do it through classes. And I had almost every instructor that I had was slow down. Don't use your hands. Don't nod. Don't blink. Don't. So when I'm talking to somebody, I'm like this.
Yeah.
But doing the acting, I'm completely like this, and it's all done with the eyes and with the, it's maybe a slight person here, person there, but in real life, I'm all over the place, and but it's taken training. So, and I'm not going to lie, there's many times that I'll be in real life situations that I have to put some of that training into effect, because people take my hyperactivity, quick moving as well, oh, calm down, I didn't mean to aggravate you, I didn't mean to, and I'm like, I'm not aggravated, this is me, just
Yeah.
this is me. And it could still be the 5 cups of coffee that I drink in the morning, I don't know, but I'm a morning person, and I go, and then at night when I hit that plateau, and I'm done. But until then, it's a constant on the go. But you get used to that. You're working, and your days off, you're filming, and if you're not filming, you're doing something to better yourself in that field. Learn when you do a monologue or an audition. That was something else somebody taught me. Watch it with the sound off. And if you can convey a story with the sound off, that's that. So, I mean, you practice these things. In an emergency, I had a neighbor once come over and be my reader, which they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, you just simply read it. You read it and let me do my thing. You just, so they thought that they were literally, acting. And I'm like, no. You just read, or somebody will say, hey, I just saw you on this or whatever. And I'm in a few movies on Tubi and one on Peacock. And, streaming is where it's going now. I've been in a couple that have hit the screen, but that was just background, other than the ones that I'm in that they did the premieres and they're now on streaming. So Valentina Mariucci is from Italy, and I took one of her workshops through Ed Fogel at Chicago Actor Studio as well. And she came in at Chicago Actor Studio. She came to Chicago this summer and actually did her workshop in person. And I was actually a guest speaker for her, because she was very effective with me. The first couple of days, or the first couple of classes, it was once a week. And the first couple of classes that I did with her, they didn't really faze me. And I thought, I'm really not getting too much out of this. And I was doing everything that she had said. And the third class hit me. I mean, it just it adhered, and it struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
And it taught me how to really a character and what you're doing. And so when I go on set, first off, every now and then the nervousness creeps up.
Yeah.
But you have to turn it into the excitement. And one of the ways to do that is to be prepared. Everybody drills it into your head. Be prepared. Be prepared. Know your lines. Know who you are. Know why you're there. Know what you're doing. Be prepared. And that is where the anxiety comes from. If you go on set and you're like, oh, I don't know this like I should. But knock wood, I feel the only time that, I mean, there may come another time, but I pray to God not. But there was a time that I showed up to Chicago Actor Studio when I was going through my lessons with Ed, and I was not prepared. And he said, if you're going to show up and you're not prepared, you're wasting your time, you're wasting my time. We can call it off now. He said, if you're going to show up and you're not going to be prepared, we're not going to waste time. And I was just like, no, you can't do this. You can't call it off. He's like, well, then you got to do your part. I'm doing my part. You got to do your part. And he's like, you either want it or you don't. And I'm like, you're right. I want it. And from that point on, it's like he said, don't show up and you disrespect the writer and the director if you show up and you're not prepared and you don't have your lines ready to go and your character in that emotion and that feel. If you are not ready to go, you're just respecting who they picked you to play. Don't do that to them. And so that struck a chord with me. So Ed taught me, when you first get a script, you read the whole thing like you're reading a book, a story. So you know exactly what's taken place and what's happening in the story and what's going on. Don't pick your character out. Just read the whole script like it's a story. And then the second time that you read it, notice your character, what your character does and how they're reacting and how you're feeling, and and then read it a third time. And then when you read it the third time, now you start. So that's my only way of memorization, is reading it over so much that because if somebody doesn't say their exact line, I know a lot of people are like, I know that my line starts with this word when I hear the ending with this word. And it's like, well, what if they mess up and they ad lib and that's not their last word? You want to be who they've hired you to be. And then you got to tell yourself, wait a minute, I'm excited to be here because I am here to do, they know that I can be this person. That's why they have me here. So, the confidence and the excitement is key.
Yes, the confidence and the excitement is the key. That's true.
I am who I am because of my mom, who is no longer with us. She encouraged me my whole life to go do and go be. And at the time, I didn't understand that. I thought it was just to be in the moment of doing what I was doing. I had no idea that there was a vision of something, of me being able to take a chance on something that I've always wanted to do and trying it and succeeding at it. And my daughter, my daughter is grown. She lives in Australia and she's following her dreams. And I always say, and there were times that I told her, if I learn half as much from you as I hope that you can learn from me. I mean, I've learned more from my daughter than she's probably learned from me in ways of just jump in and live your life and do it. And had she not moved out of the country to follow her dream, I probably wouldn't have taken the steps to keep myself busy and learned to follow mine.
Wonderful.
And so it's, I owe a lot to my mom. I owe a lot to my daughter, and we're closer now. The distance, we've got experience and age. Hell, I wish she lived next door. I miss her terribly, but thank God for FaceTime and WhatsApp. But we're closer now because of the age, the experience, and the freedoms that we have as individuals versus me hovering over her as a mom. That's probably where I would have been. And then Sadie came along, and Sadie actually saved my life. So, they say I may have rescued her, but she saved me. So I call dog, because Sadie is my dog, and I call her an angel on four legs. And are you sleeping? Yeah.
Oh,
Are
Loki,
you
that's
sleepy, girl? Are you sleepy, girl? Speak. Oh, good girl, good girl.
look at that. So she's like well trained.
Got her. It was at the worst time of my life.
Okay.
I got her at the time that I was doing background acting, and I was in between. I mean, I had gone into grief after the loss of my mom. I fell into this big ditch and hole of grief, and I had to wind up going for counseling. I am not ashamed to say that I had to go to counseling because no one is exempt from good and bad and winding up in bad spots and having to get out of them, and everybody deals with stuff differently.
Yeah.
So I had gone into grief, and then I actually, one of the things that I learned in counseling was I had to get back into doing something that made me feel good. And they said, what makes you feel good? And I said, I used to do a lot of work with veterans. So at one point in time, I was working with Canines for Veterans with PTSD. And I said, I want to go work with the dogs. So I contacted the CEO of Canines for Veterans with PTSD, and I thank you, Michael Tellerino, and Kathy Bertosiak owns Simply Shepherds. And she helps match the dogs up with veterans and stuff like that. So I actually went back to the center and started, they were going to train me to train the dogs. And that's where I met Kathy, and I saw Sadie on Kathy's website. And she was in a cage, and all I saw was from her eyes down. And for some reason, I couldn't get away from the eyes. And I said, I got to meet that dog. So she took me to meet Sadie, but what I didn't know is Sadie was already scheduled to be euthanized. She had already been caged for 30 days without physical contact. No one could get near her. Her aggressiveness was due to abuse and fear. She made people think, I'll hurt you before I'll let you hurt me first. And when our eyes met, that dog looked completely through to my soul. And it just so happens that was God bringing two lost souls together who were in the same exact spot of no hope anymore. And that day changed my life forever. And so it was quite an adjustment for both of us, though. I mean, and even when she came home, she didn't even want to let my daughter in the house. And my daughter's like, I can't get in the house. I was like, I'm not going to be able to keep this dog. So they actually sent a trainer over, and I've had more training than she has because I'm like, I've never worked with a dog like this. But whoever had her trained her with some movements, nonverbal movements. She follows those, and she tracks things very well. She can, one of the games that we play to keep sharp, I'll hide something in the house so she can go find it, a treat in something. And when I no longer hear her, I know she's sitting in front of it. She has found it. And then I go in the room, and there she is, and give her treat. So, and she's learned a lot of commands just with certain hand movements. And we keep that stuff in practice. And she works 24/7. She's always guarding. She's always, wait. There she is. There she is. So she's amazing. She is, but she's very, she's so close to human, it's not funny. But, she and my daughter are very close now. She can hear me talking to my daughter on FaceTime, and she'll come in the room like, where is she? So I got to turn the phone, and my daughter will be like, hi, Sadie. My Sadie. My daughter has a grand pup. She has a French bulldog in Australia who is her baby out there. And I will get to meet him at the end of the year. I'll be taking another trip out to visit her this time. And she travels all over the world, and places that I've never even heard of. I have to Google. She knows that I'm not good at geography, and she'll be like, we were just in such and such place. And then she can tell by this look on my face, and she's like, Mom, Google it. But yeah, I'll be out by her by the end of the year to celebrate, visit. And then when I do that, there's a couple that Sadie has grown very close with, and they come and stay at my house.
Yeah.
As long as I'm alive, this dog will never see the inside of another cage. Life happens, life changes, and mine has taken quite a turn from where it used to be. And I have to say, you have to go through, sometimes you have to go through the bad to get to the good. And that's what God does. And then you take what you've learned and where you're at so that you can help somebody else out of that ditch and through the bad. And I think that's the way that it works. God brings you who you need when you need them. And God brought them to me to help me. And Grace, my mom's best friend down the street, I couldn't have done it without her. And a couple of my best friends, Joy, Eileen, Tracy, to help pull me out too. So you kind of do that, and then you pay it forward to the next people, and that's what it's all about. And there's so many people that you see just every single day going through the motions of, I go do a job and I go home and I don't do anything else. And that was me at one point. That was me. And my feet hit that floor every morning. I thank God for another day and what's coming my way today. And people must think I'm nuts. Every morning when I walk Sadie, they think I'm probably having a conversation with her. I'm having a conversation with God. I mean, every single morning, that just the gratefulness and getting as tired as I may be when I get home from work, having the opportunity to Zoom with somebody, to audition, to podcast, to network, to do what I love. God brings you who you need, and you make time for what's important to you.
Let's talk about when that pandemic and the strike. Did that affect it? Because I feel like pandemic happened, and then few more years, and then strike happened. How did you manage during that time? Pandemic and strike. Let's talk about that.
Pandemic was. I think that put everybody to pandemic. It put everybody to a halt. Actually, the day that pandemic hit and they shut down shooting, I guess one of the directors from LA, or long story short, COVID had hit, and the people that had been transported in the buses had all been exposed to COVID. And the only way they knew how to they didn't know who had been in what buses and whatever, and they had to shut down Cinespace. That was the day they had to shut down Cinespace. And didn't find out until like 2 weeks later that that's what had happened. We just thought they had canceled the scene. We didn't know what had happened. And then we were like, what do you mean COVID and all of this? That's when it all started to hit. So everything was at a freeze and a standstill. And I was extremely grateful that I had my job at Costco. But it got very scary. I'm still seeing, 400 people a day. And then they, put the shields up. Everybody had masks, and everybody had to do the 6 feet. People were fighting. All hell was breaking loose. Everything, it was crazy. And then I was actually even cast in a couple of indie films. They were going to try to film. And one of them was going to be filmed in a restaurant. It was going to be a reception, a ceremony, and it was going to be filmed in a restaurant. And then they had to cancel that because the restaurant was going to originally let us film. But then they got notice that if they were caught with people in the restaurant, that they would be shut down, that they would be like, lose their license, be shut down and everything. So they're like, you can't come in and film even, because they're going to think we have patrons in here and we're going to get shut down. So that got put off. Things got put off for a long time. However, people were still writing. People kept writing, and people kept casting, and they were like, we're going to get ready for, when we can start doing this again. And so when we were able to start doing this again, we were ready on some level to just jump right in and do it. And everybody was excited to do it. But then the TV shows got to, we're back to filming again, and we started doing that. And I was so grateful. I was getting in rooms for the auditions. of TV shows that we watched that I wanted to be on and have speaking roles in, and I was getting callbacked, and and here's another audition, and I was having a ball. And then all of a sudden, now writers, the strike happens, and there's none of that going on. And I am looking forward to when we can do those again. I want those opportunities again. But I also feel like in this downtime, no excuses. It was everybody's job and responsibility to up their game.
Yes.
So if people saw it as it was a lull and there was nothing to do, and no, quite the contrary. I think that gave everybody an opportunity to get ahead of the game and to up their game. And so when they still doing non-union stuff is huge. And they've been obviously still very active. And but I'm glad that that's going to come back, because we want the bigger opportunities. But there's some non-union opportunities out there that are pretty big.
So are you a non-union or you're a SAG-AFTRA?
I'm non-union. I am non-union.
Okay.
I have done a couple of SAG projects, but I am still non-union, and I will stay non-union as long as I possibly can.
Okay.
Until I get, many managers and agents, they say, and even Vilma and some of the people that do teachings with her and Max and stuff like that, they're like, stay where you are as long as you can, because the doors of opportunity are open more. And if you get to that SAG level, when you get to that SAG level, your competition is going to be another level of people that have already been doing that. And to work into it, like I said, my process has been slow. I will get there. That is my intention. That is my goal. And I will do something with that. But I won't give up until I do. And then even when you do get there, it's like, I look back where I was a year from now, and people are like, do you think you're successful in this? And I'm like, I'm nowhere near where I plan to be, but I look back where I was a year ago, and I'm like, I never would have dreamed that I'd be where I am now then. So do you ever really get to where you think you're completely successful and done and over, where you're supposed to be here? I mean, the whole industry is, you keep going. You just got to keep going. And do you ever really get to a point of where you think you finally made it? I don't. I'd like to give it one hell of a try.
It's a wonderful way to say that and bring it out there. What's your dream role? Have you had that sense like, okay, that's going to be the dream role?
My goal is to get the chance of a lifetime role in a movie, and you never know when that could hit, or what role that is going to be. Or so you've just got to give 150% to every single one that you fit, that you feel that you fit. I may have already filmed it, or I may be getting ready to film it, or that there have been a couple of opportunities that I've had auditions in front of some pretty major directors, and there was once that I didn't know. I got an audition the one night, and I had to go film the next morning because I was off the next day. The audition was due later that evening, and so I left there, and I went by Randy Bernales for him to help coach me through it. And he loved the audition. And he saw the name of the director and he said, do you realize who this is? And normally when I get an audition and you get your sides, the first thing I do is Google the director, Google the editor. And then a lot of times it'll say what some of their work was, and you want to see what some of their work was so that you kind of see what they like, what is their style. And even though you have to bring you have to bring you, are they, are they dark? Are they deep? Are they, cheery? Are they, So I didn't have time to do anything with this director. I just saw the role in the part, and it was a small role, and it seemed easy enough for what I was doing, and Brandy was like, yeah, did great, kind of thing. And then he said, while he was editing and we were getting ready to send in the clip, he said, do you realize who you're auditioning for here? And I said, I really don't. And I said, no, I haven't Googled this director yet. And he said, her casting company is the one who cast Austin Butler for Elvis.
Wow.
I said, what?
Yeah.
And I stood right there and I Googled it and I just went, I said, you know what? I was so excited about this. Had I known before, I would have probably been nervous.
It's good not to know about that person. So you are real and you do how you are.
Person, it's great to know about that person, but if you don't ahead of time, if it's going to be intimidating, I have to say the very first time that I met Ed Fogel, I didn't know who he was. And the very first workshop, here comes this guy in a t-shirt, a pair of tennis shoes, a pair of ripped jeans, and I was like, and we still laugh at this story, Ed and I, and we still laugh at this story because it was the first workshop I had gone into, and when I sat there, they were like, Ed Fogel is doing this workshop tonight. And I'm like, well, that's great. And I'm thinking, who the hell is Ed Fogel? So before long, this guy comes in. He's wearing just a solid white t-shirt, a pair of ripped jeans, Converse tennis shoes, and he starts talking to us. And I'm thinking, I wonder if this is the maintenance guy, But then I'm like, well, he knows a lot about acting, must have learned a lot just from working around here in the studio, And then before I know it, they're like, that's Ed Fogel. I'm like, that's Ed Fogel. Well, I had never been to a workshop. I thought everybody that showed up at these things, suit and tie and look like an actor. I had portrayed like this actor in my head, this vision of who they were going to look like. And then I was like, that's Ed Fogel? Okay. So when like the intermission, kind of everybody gets to take a break and go to the bathroom and get something to drink, I Googled Ed Fogel. And then I was a little intimidated. And I was like, that's him. But I didn't know to begin with. And but it can be overwhelming and intimidating sometimes. But again, you have to turn it around into an excitement and not nervousness.
Yes, that's true. I agree with that. Where can our listeners find you?
On Instagram at Stace Miner. I do have a professional Facebook page if they'd like to follow it, Stacey Miner. That's STACEY MINER. I'm only on Instagram and Facebook.
And if you want to share, would you mind sharing what is your IMDb credit?
Thank you. Yes, IMDb, Stacey Miner, and I wrote 2 short films, and they wound up in 14 film festivals. They got awards. A couple of both of them wound up in 2 countries. And I wrote one. It's Dime Jar, and then the other one was Hidden Wings. Those are
available.
And then I'm in 4 movies that are streaming on YouTube. The very first one that I did was called Evil Lurks. It's a horror movie. I'm not a horror person, but they became a second family. It was one of the first features that I did. And that is streaming. And then I'm on City Undercover. by Quincy Trent. I am on Fatal Witness by Quincy Trent.
Okay.
Till Death Do Us by Quincy Trent. And in November, another one by Quincy Trent will be coming out called A Thanksgiving Christmas.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think those are the only ones streaming right now. And there will be more streaming because I'll be working with, I've got a couple of more movies coming up with him.
Yeah.
And Dre Boyd has a lot of Dre Stuff Films. Dre Stuff Films has a YouTube channel that he streams his movies on that.
Awesome.
And if somebody wants to send me, a message and say, hey, I'd love to see Dime Jar, it turned out to be a true story. It started out, it was just going to be a little clip for a reel, and turned out to be a true story of a conversation of me and my mother. And I was very inspired by Roma Downey and Touched by an Angel. And so when it came time to making a clip for a reel, I contacted Randy and I said, I want to do something different. I don't want to have the typical doctor or police officer or detective or lawyer. I said, I want to do something different. And he said, well, kind of like what? And I said, I want to be sitting on a park bench and talking to a woman. And at the end, nobody realizes that nobody could see her but me until the end. And I was really talking to an angel. And he said, I've never filmed anything like that. And I said, me neither. So we started he said, do you have any ideas? And I said, I've got some points and some ideas. And so I started writing it down, and it turned into a conversation, and it turned into a short film called Dime Jar. My mother, God rest her soul, my mother still sends me dimes. And I made it turned into a short film, and it was dedicated to her, and it wound up in 2 countries and 14 film festivals and won 6 awards. So I did Hidden Wings, and Hidden Wings is it says not all angels have some angels have 4 legs, and at the end, when you find out who the angelic presence is at the end, it turns out, okay, Sadie. Spoiler alert, it turns out to be Sadie. Yes, Sadie. It's Sadie.
And I feel like I have seen those couple of clips or maybe pictures of you, and let me guess.
But I'll send you the whole link. And they're short. One of them is 7 minutes long and one of them is 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
They're short films that they get the point across very quick. When I get the bug and the writing bug, I've got, it's kind of weird. You wake up at night and you write down the little points, and then you tuck them back in the drawer. And you can't go to sleep until you write them, until you get them written out, because they're on your mind. Yeah. So you get incentive and you start doing that. And Sadie has actually been in a couple of films. And she's in one film that Mike Hollab wrote. It's called Hers, His, and the Dogs. And it's about a point of view of a couple. And, when there's an argument, she has a viewpoint and he has a viewpoint. But there was also in this particular movie the viewpoint of the dog. And it was Sadie. And I actually stood behind the director's head with a tennis ball because it had to make it look like she was listening to an argument. So Sadie's going like this. And then she tennis ball. Now, when Sadie's voice, there was a voiceover. And it was, Sadie's voiceover was like, well, that's not what I remember. No, that's not what she said. No, that's not how it happened. I don't think so. So there was a voiceover for Sadie. So she's played in a couple of films also. So, and Justice Prevails, she's like the house dog. We filmed that here. We've had 3 episodes of that's through Dre Stuff. Dre Stuff Films. And he filmed 3 episodes here at the house, and they are getting ready to do episode 4. And Sadie will be in that one as well. So she's used to the cameras and the lights around, and she does very well. And you tell her, you can do, that's when the hand motions come in handy about her knowing how to do certain things without verbally saying it.
Yeah,
So
it's wonderful to have you on my channel.
thank
I
you
can't
so much for having me.
I
I'm
can't be
honored.
so grateful. I am so grateful that you came. You made your time. You made yourself available for my podcast. I really appreciate your time. Anything you want to share for Mom with Dreams podcast channel?
Um, yes, you're wonderful. Keep following your dream. And I think everybody should. If there's, everybody's always like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do that, or oh my gosh, I can't. That's only, I always used to, I was that person.
Yeah,
That's for somebody else.
yeah,
That's for somebody else. It's not for
mhm,
people like me. Everything is for people like us.
yeah,
It's, if that's what you want to do, you got to do it, because you're leaving room for
mhm,
someone else less qualified to be doing the spot that you're supposed to be in.
yeah,
Go do it. You have to live. You have
yes,
to live. Life is short, and no one is promised tomorrow. And there's one more story that stuck with me, and I
mhm,
actually saw this on media, and it
mhm,
really stuck with me. And I recently have someone very close to me has had a death in their family, and I've gone through death, and it's so very true that time is short and no one is promised tomorrow. But this really stuck with me. There was a story of a guy who went to work, and the guy at work said, hey, what's going on with you? The last couple of days you haven't been your jovial self. You're not as happy and peppy as you used to be. And he said, oh man, me and my wife had the most awful argument. We've never argued like this. He said, and I even left this morning and we weren't talking. He said, and I just can't handle it. When I get home tonight, I'm going to talk to her and we're going to work this out and I'm going to fix it. And he said, who told you that? And he said, who told me what? And he said, who told you you were going to make it home tonight? And the older you get, the more real stuff like that hits you. And he said, who told you you were going to make it home tonight? What if you don't make it home tonight? You go in there and you call her and you fix it now. So I make sure every day of my life that the people that I love, they know where they stand with me. They know that I love them. They know how special they are in my life. They know that I prayed for you today. I'm thinking of you, and I'm here at any time.
yeah,
And I make it a point that if God forbid that I don't wake up tomorrow, the people that are special to me in my life, they know, no one questions. I wonder if she knows that I loved her. I wonder if she knows that I loved her back.
yes. That reminds me actually. This was the time when I came to know like my dad passed away. Um, there was a festival going on, and I think my mom and dad just had a like as usual the couples how they do it. Now I understand being in that situation. Um, it was just a random day, and then he left. They did not talk, and he just left, and we just came to know that he ended up having a heart attack, and
Mm.
we
Oh, I'm
saw him.
sorry. I didn't know that that would hit so personally.
No, and I feel like when you hear those stories like this, you feel like, oh, yeah, it's only me, but it's not only me. It's yeah, you have to tell someone that you love them. You go and give your loved ones a hug, or just say that how much you love. I feel um, that reminded me of that, and that's why I'm sharing. I usually don't want to bring those things, but yeah, and when we went to the hospital and saw
I'm
that.
sorry, though. I didn't mean to bring up something so personal. See,
No,
I didn't know, but that is something that really struck a
yeah,
chord with me.
and I
My
feel like
meeting.
that is one of the thing like now I see like you mentioned about who's gonna tell you that who told you that you're gonna make it home. Yes, that's true, and I feel like it needed to be reminded. Some days you feel like, oh, I'm rushing, I have to go to the work right now, but when that moment comes, you don't know that you're gonna come back.
Right.
So
You
enjoy
have
that
to pray that you do.
small moments, yeah. So yeah, no, thank you actually for reminding that. Yeah, so busy people out there, always remember to
I
say
have,
I love you, or I'm there
there
for
was
you.
an instance, I always, someone that I love, and I did it with my mom and my daughter, and I do it with when we're parting ways, and when my daughter used to go to college, and and we used to hug by, and I always used to say one more. So as soon as we would let go, and I would be like one more. And my daughter, when she was younger, my
Yeah.
daughter used to roll her eyes at that. She used to be like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, come on."
So many
Well,
hugs.
well, when my daughter moved to Australia, she was coming home 4 times a year. We were seeing each other. When pandemic hit, we weren't able to see each other for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know who that hit harder, her or me. My heart stopped beating and my breath stopped. I just froze. And I was like, I can't wait to see her again. And the next time that I saw her, and we hugged and we hugged and we hugged and we hugged. And when I dropped her off at the airport, I said, I know you don't like this part, but I need one more. And she goes, Mom, make it 2. And that was the first time I said, really? She said, now she knew what it meant that we didn't know when we would get that next hug, because you take that stuff for granted. The people you love are there. And something happened in a split moment that shut everything down. Just bring her here and hold her and not let go. So I do that, though. I still do that. I'm like, one more hug. I just need one more hug. And she gets that now. That's one more hug, because, and I tell people, you don't know if that's going to be your last hug.
Yeah.
So it's always good to do one more hug and one more I love you.
Yeah. No, thank you, Stacey. This was a wonderful podcast, and I am so grateful. Thank you for being here. You shared so many things about being an actor, and age is just a number. It's never too late to start anything new in your life. So thanks.
And anyway, I might as well be doing what I love and get as far as I can. I'm going to be 60 anyway. Good Lord willing, I'm going to be 60 anyway. So when I can say I'm 60 and I'm getting that Oscar, who would have known that at 52?
That's true. So I hope you all enjoyed this wonderful story from Stacey. Stay tuned for more upcoming podcasts on your way. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and share with your friends and families. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do it right now. Turn on the notification bell to get notified as soon as I upload more my new shorts or video or podcast. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful day. Bye. Namaste.